and let us all do we can to build a better future.
So, from her recent interview that she did with RBN, there's been this growing hype around Marianne Williamson running in 2024. Now, I saw her election. I think we all saw her campaign in 2020. It was mediocre at best, but perhaps now everyone is looking at who could potentially challenge Biden. Now, the old guard, no pun intended, of the Democratic establishment are trying to make it very clear that Biden is their number one guy. Look, Biden's showing clear signs of dementia and Alzheimer's, all right? There's something fundamentally wrong with it. And not to mention, these politicians who are in their 80s going on to their 90s, they had their time in the sun, perhaps too much time in the sun. It's time for them to step aside. Many of these politicians who hold key leadership positions, just like Nancy, even though she's not Speaker of the House, let's face it, her will is being done in the United States House of Representatives. Many of these politicians are from a time in America that no longer exists. And of course, you have the lapdogs, the new people like Hakeem Jeffries or AOC, who are waiting in wings just to be another click, copy, paste version of Biden or Nancy. I mean, is that what we're aspiring to? Just a newer version of the older version that's been screwing us over for decades? Boomers, Gen Xers, Millennials, Gen Z, we deserve so much more. And now with Marianne Williamson's campaign or potential campaign for 2024, well, people want to view her as maybe another alternative. To which, again, if you've been watching this show, if you really want to make a difference, don't vote Democrat or Republican. Now, I want to give a huge shout out to Case Study QB who found these two videos. And I found this one interesting because they're making a comparison of Marianne Williamson to Dr. Jill Stein of the Green Party of 2016. Let's play this video, and I'll add in my commentary after it. So again, shout out to Case Study QB. If you're not following him, he is still wrongly being censored by Twitter. Elon Musk. Case Study QB is not posting up controversial material. It's just news from CNN or Fox or BSDNC.
2024, President Biden has drawn his first Democratic challenger. Best-selling self-help author Marianne Williamson has announced her plans to run for president. Williamson, a progressive Democrat, ran for the White House in 2020, but she dropped out of the race just before the primaries and caucuses got underway. Joining us now to discuss this, White House reporter for Bloomberg, Akayla Gardner. All right, Akayla, Marianne Williamson aside, does the White House anticipate other candidates jumping into the Democratic primary the longer that Joe Biden does not say he's running?
I don't think the White House ever expected to get a serious challenger. And I wonder if they would even consider Marianne Williamson a serious challenger at that. And I think they really risk here giving her too much attention. But it is going to be somewhat of an annoyance to have her out there openly criticizing Joe Biden. She's already said she's disagreed with his view on the economy, which we know is always a huge issue for voters. It was in the midterms and will likely be again in 2024. And so they risk giving her attention, but also having to address this very real criticism that Biden has faced, that he is disconnected with everyday Americans who are going to the grocery store and seeing high prices on eggs and continue to feel the effects of inflation. And so it's certainly an annoyance to them, but I don't think we're expecting any other prominent Democrats, especially anyone holding public office, to jump into this race.
You're right. People should just remember the role Jill Stein played in 2016 for an example of a nuisance that someone on the left can be for a Democrat.
Well, you know what? There's two ways to look at that final statement from that jagoff from BSDNC. So let's really talk about it. First, number one, you goddamn right, Dr. Jill Stein caused a ruckus. At least she had follow through, unlike Senator Bernie Sanders, who, again, at the Wells Fargo Center in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, turned his back on his delegates, supporters, and volunteers. Daniel Lupker and myself were there covering that in 2016. And even leaving the Wells Fargo Center, it hit my mind. There's a 50-50 chance that the Democrats can lose it. But let's be very clear here. Dr. Jill Stein is with the Green Party, not a Democrat. Second, even if all the Green Party people were to fall in line and vote for Hillary Rodham Clinton, it still wouldn't have made a difference. Again, we don't have a normal kind of democracy. Popular vote doesn't matter in this country. The Electoral College supersedes the popular vote. So even if all the Green Party people were to vote for the Democratic candidate of 2016, nothing would fundamentally change because Hillary Clinton would still lose the Electoral College. So if you're a Democratic voter or a Republican voter and you think popular vote means something, well, that means you're in another country. In America, the Electoral College supersedes everything. Plus, number two, again, Marianne Williamson will be running in the Democratic Party, and seeing as how all the candidates, stumbled and fell and rallied behind good old Joe Biden, I mean, I really don't see any kind of Democratic contender really challenging Biden. And let's say it's not Biden. The Democrats are going to pick their corporate pick. That's how it works. We saw it not once, but twice in 2016 and 2020. And history is going to repeat itself again in 2024. I want to pull up one other video here. It's a short video. Again, shout out to Case Study QB. If you're not following him on Twitter, please do so. Again, he is wrongly being censored, and I urge everyone to please follow his YouTube channel and Odyssey page. He does great commentary and talks with a lot of other great progressive minds, activists, politicians, candidates. He does great work, but unfortunately his work is being censored on Twitter, which I don't approve of. But that's a story for another day. I keep on repeating it. Hopefully, eventually, word gets out. Again, Case Study QB posts only video clips of CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, etc., etc., etc. So let's check this out.
Biden has his first Democratic challenger in the 2024 presidential race, best-selling self-help author and spiritual advisor Marianne Williamson. The progressive has confirmed plans to launch her presidential campaign early next month. Williamson ran an unconventional campaign back in 2020, you may recall, calling for a Department of Peace and reparations. She once held a meditation session while campaigning in New Hampshire, but she struggled to raise money. Biden has not formally announced running for re-election, but has said it is his intention to.
So there you go. Now, I'm not really impressed with what Marianne Williamson is offering. I saw that interview that she did on RBN, and, you know, I don't think she's really has the mindset or really the ability to take on the corruption of the Democratic establishment. We saw what happened to Bernie Sanders not once, but twice. And I foolishly thought, my mistake on this one, and I'll have to live with this mistake, I thought he would be ready in 2020. I thought his team would be ready from all the situations that they saw in 2016. My bad. However, we all know how Democrats play their game. They have superdelegates. We saw how they shut down polling stations. We saw how voters are somehow no longer registered. Lack of paper ballots. I mean, election fraud, not voter fraud. Election fraud is a very real thing. And election fraud and voter fraud are two different things altogether. The one you got to be worried about is election fraud. Election fraud, election fraud. So good luck to Marianne Williamson. If she's really being authentic and sincere, all the best for her campaign. Now, I'm not going to vote Democrat, and I sure as heck won't vote Republican. But 2024 is going to be a very interesting year. I hope it's entertaining. I hope that both primaries will be engaging, at least. That's what I want to see. I want to see the old Trump of 2016. I want to see him start tearing apart his, rivals in the Republican primary. And side note about the Republican primary, here's something that I find funny and hilarious. You know, the Republican primaries don't have superdelegates. So if you ever want to make a liberal mad, just tell them that Trump was more democratically elected in his primary in 2016 than Hillary Clinton was, because Democrats rely on superdelegates. Talk about a fair electoral process.